Good morning, everyone. Fry has assumed his morning position, I guess. Look, it's the Fry position. I don't know. I cannot control him any more than apparently I can control the weather. Thank you, Eris, for doing all the modelly things. Good morning, Farrell and Reindeer and Samantha and Dennis and Greedy Bloke and JK Debug and Jason. Thank you so much, Farrell. Yes, I and Christine and Greedy Bloke. Everyone, good morning. I hope everyone is staying safe, warm, and out of this weather. We are getting flurries. There were no snow days, though I'm sure the schools tried their very best to parlay flurries into a full day off, but there was no go with that. Thanks, Dennis, for that vote of confidence. Good morning, Old Line Red and Phoenix Fox. Yeah, it mainly rained here. I was actually more worried about flooding. We do kind of, so while we are up on a hill, it is, we are surrounded by low-lying areas, so I was worried about being able to get out. Friberto, I get the camera set up and then you move. It is like a constant plot here. We are finally getting snow. It is finally flurrying. I passed at least 3 salt trucks, so I guess we're expecting things to turn into snow. I do not know. I do know that I'm having a better TV newsy news experience than a TV crew in Ecuador because masked gunmen stormed a TV studio in Ecuador and basically took it over. It was a day like any other at TV or TC Television Studio in Guadaluquil, Ecuador, with its mid-afternoon newscast underway when masked gunmen burst in, unleashing at least 15 minutes of threat and fear, all on a live broadcast. Oh, well, I'm so sorry, Samantha Shoe Lover. Yeah, Kansas, I know, got hit pretty hard. No. Yeah, I heard that the strong winds were really, I mean, it was pretty windy. I'm glad I didn't take the giant Ford Transit. That is a pretty hard one to drive. But your little Ford, look, I call it an F-it, but it really is a Fusion. It's, look, I may or may not have discovered I love all the wigs. So, good morning, Jude. So, in order to save my hair and not play with all the hair dye, wigs have become a way to go. So, maybe in Ecuador we need all of the armed guards, and just like in Israel, your newscasters need to be packing, I guess. The first man with a pistol appeared in the middle of the public TV television's live transmission, followed by a second man with a shotgun and a third and more. It was like a literal clown card. Now, or clown car. Now, as per usual, NBC News has none of the live feed of this particular action because their, you know, video up top here is unrelated BS that has nothing to do with the actual article. With the show's, quote, after the news title behind them, station employees were brought onto the set in order to lie down. Screams could be heard, followed by the sounds of gunshots. Quote, we are on air, so you know we cannot play with the mafia, one of the assailants is heard saying. Masked gunmen could be seen aiming weapons at the news staff. Someone said, don't shoot. After about 15 minutes, transmissions were cut. The unprecedented assault on television news at Ecuador came hours after a series of other attacks and police officer abductions. It also followed the apparent escapes from prisons of 2 leaders of Ecuador's most powerful gangs. Thank goodness no one was unalived in Tuesday's attack, and authorities say that 13 gunmen were arrested and will be charged with terrorism. President Daniel Noboa, who came into power in November with a promise to bring peace to the South American country, you're doing a swell job, sir. Don't let anyone tell you different. I'm sure everyone has these little hiccups. Issued a decree saying the violence plaguing the country has entered a quote, internal armed conflict in what some analysts see as a watershed moment for Ecuador. Late Tuesday, Noboa met with his security cabinet, and afterwards, the head of Armed Forces Joint Command said that the attacks were the gang's reaction to government moves against them. Now, call me crazy, but I do believe that most South American countries do not have the Second Amendment. Now, I understand that everyone has their own ideas on it, but maybe my idea on it is if these citizens were allowed to arm themselves and the criminals weren't the only ones with maybe implements of acceleration of freedom seeds, they'd be a little bit less cocky about going into a freaking news station. But as I am not an equatoriologist, I have I have zero idea what's going on in Ecuador. So these are my 500 feet, absolute blonde, you know, observations, and may be completely ill-informed, and in fact are self-admittedly ill-informed. Quote, they have unleashed a wave of violence to frighten the population, Administrator Jamie Vela told journalists, describing the attacks as unprecedented. The South American country has been rocked by attacks since Monday night, but the assault on the live newscast was seen as it happened in thousands of homes across the country. This is a turning point, said Will Friedman, a political analyst at the Council on Foreign Relations, adding that while gangs in Ecuador had previously assassinated a presidential candidate and set off car bombs in front of government buildings, as you do on a Tuesday, Tuesday's events marked a new peak of violence. Quote, depending on how the government responds, it will set the precedent for these kinds of incidents to continue, or use this as a catalyst to make some very necessary structural reforms so that the state can start to win the war against crime. Now, I want to say, no, it's not Argentina. Is it Nicaragua or Colombia? I don't remember. No, it was Honduras. I do believe it was Honduras that started to round up every single criminal and gang member and throw them into mega prison. And every single Western government got super, super sad for all the criminals, if I remember correctly. I could be very, very wrong about this. But it was El Salvador. Thank you, Veilhammer Media. I always mix them up. I am very sorry. I apologize. Like I said, I am not a South Americaologist. But El Salvador, did start taking a very hard line approach to criminal gangs, and every single one from Amnesty International to the ACLU to every single, I'm surprised that Sarah McLachlan wasn't down there singing for poor MS-13. But, as soon as these countries start bringing the hammer down, then everyone's like, won't we think of the poor criminals? So what would you like these countries to do? So either they get tough on crime, and the president might be a hottie and might be saying all the cool things, or, they let this stuff happen. It really... I didn't say that, greedy bloke. I also have a crap ton of Lyrica, and I can't remember my own name, to be very honest. Not to mention I wear enough wigs I don't remember who I am half the time. Alina Mano Manrique, the head of news for TC Television, was ordered to get on the floor. They aimed a gun at my head, she told the Associated Press. I thought about my entire life, about my two children. Manrique said some of the assailants ran from the studio and tried to hide when they realized they were surrounded by police. I am still in shock, she said. Everything has collapsed. All I know is that it's time to leave the country and go far, far away. I don't think he would sit still. But maybe for, our year anniversary, I'll try to get him to sit still and put a wig on. We'll see. Police officers entered the TV station and subdued the assailants, who face up to 13 years in prison if they're convicted of terrorism. However, it seems like you can just escape from Ecuadorian prisons, so I don't know. On Monday, a day after notorious gang leaders' apparent escape from President Nuba declared a national state of emergency, a measure that lets authorities suspend people's rights and mobilize the military in places like prisons. On Tuesday, shortly after gunmen stormed the television station, Nova issued another decree designating 20 drug trafficking gangs operating in the country as terrorist groups and authorizing Ecuador's military to neutralize them within the bounds of international humanitarian law. So it does seem that either we in the West need to let countries do what they need to do for their own countries, or, we need to help them, but we can't have it both ways because, again, El Salvador starts to do something about its own crime, and we start crying big baby crocodile tears. And then, Honduras, or for the love of Cheetos, for the love of all that is holy, my brain is having a meltdown. Ecuador is having this issue, and we're like, Ecuador, are you going to do something? And I guarantee someone is going to be on the news tomorrow saying, they're doing martial law. What about rights? Swear to goodness. It's going to happen. Maybe we need to let countries figure things out on their own. They are their own countries. I could be wrong, but that's just me. The government has said at least 30 attacks have taken place since authorities announced that Los Choneros gang leader Adolfo Macias, alias Frito, was discovered missing from his cell in a low-security prison. Who the hell puts a daggone gang leader in a low-security prison? We are the Miss Kravitz of the world. He was scheduled to be transferred to a maximum security facility that day. Daggone it, it was just, we were one day from retirement. Ecuadorian officials on Tuesday announced that another gang leader, Fabrizio Colon Pico of the Los Lobos group, had escaped from prison in a town of Riobamba. Colon Pico was captured on Friday as part of a kidnapping investigation and has also been accused of trying to murder one of the nation's lead prosecutors. For the love of all that is holy. Other attacks have included an explosion near the house of the president of the National Justice Court and the Monday night kidnappings of 4 police officers. Police said one officer was abducted in the capital, Quintillo, and 3 in Quevedo City. Los Choneros, one of the Ecuadorian gangs that authorities considered responsible for the spike in violence, are tied to drug trafficking that reached a new level last year with the assassination of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio. The gang has links with the Mexican Sinaloa cartel, according to authorities. Yeah. Well, so it really is, again, I think we'll have to sit down and figure out what we're gonna have to do about drugs. There's a lot of these base level conversations we're gonna have a talk about because I don't know that baseline at it, we need to secure our border, regardless of how you feel about immigration or anything about that. We are funding evil all around the world because of our lax problems. We are funding human trafficking. We are funding drug trafficking. We are funding so much because we are not taking care of our own backyard. Let's take care of our own backyard and not be Miss Kravitz in other countries. But, as I hate to say it, if I, the weirdo in a wig, am the voice of reason, I just, yeah, I know there's a border subcommittee because I'm one of those weirdos that watches CNN or C-SPAN, but I'm getting tired of political kabuki theater. If I see Ted Cruz one more again, yell at, oh God, eyebrows, his name escapes me, but Baldy, who's supposed to be the head of Mayorkas. If I see Ted Cruz yell at Baldy Mayorkas, angry eyebrows, one more time, one more again, oh, well then it'll be Rand Paul. It'll just, you know, nothing gets done. Everyone looks incompetent, and we spend time, we get sound bites and everyone looks good and everyone feels good for about 5 seconds and nothing gets done. I'm getting a little bit tired of it. So hopefully hopefully martial law works. I'm just saying. In other news, Connecticut mom of 5, Jennifer Dulos, declared dead after 4 years since she's disappeared. An inescapable conclusion. Jennifer Dulos, the mother of 5 who disappeared from her Connecticut home over 4 years ago, has been officially declared dead days before her husband's ex-girlfriend is set to stand trial in connection to the vanishing. Sal, I don't know about all that. uh, Darren New Can or Darian New Cannon Judge Probate Judge, sorry. Again, English is my first and only language, and yet I still can't speak it. Judge William P. Osterndorf made the declaration in a court decision on October 24th, 2023. According to multiple reports, quote, extensive efforts have been made by local and state police authorities to locate her body, the judge wrote in his decision, according to CT Insider. To date, more than 4 years have passed and the body of Jennifer has not been located. Dulos was last seen dropping her kids off at New Canaan County School on May 24th, 2019. She was supposed to meet her children at her mother's home in New York City later in the day, but never showed up. A missing person report for Dulos was issued to the New Canaan police just before 6:59 p.m. that Friday. They located suspected blood evidence in a Range Rover parked inside one of her home's garages. Quote, the overwhelming evidence submitted to the court supports the claim that Jennifer sustained non-survivable injuries, the decision states, according to NBC Connecticut. Quote, the inescapable conclusion is Jennifer is deceased, Ostendorf concluded. Dulos's mother, Gloria Farber, 88, had petitioned the court for a declaration of death in case she died before her daughter was legally declared dead by the state. In Connecticut, a person can be presumed dead after being missing and not heard from for 7 or more years. At the time of her disappearance, Doulos was in a nasty divorce and custody battle with her estranged husband, Foitis Doulos, who was arrested in connection with her disappearance on January 7th, 2020. It it is okay. He was or Foitis. I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but I have not kept up with this case. I know you all are going to be shocked, but between having children, this was 2019. The youngest, most feral was 3, and we had just moved. So I was maybe a little preoccupied at that moment, and I wasn't very into court cases. Foitis Doulos was charged with capital murder, murder, and kidnapping. He was caught on video dumping black garbage bags, which contained 4 3-foot-long zip-tied, four 3-foot-long zip ties stained with Jennifer's blood and her clothes along Hartford, Connecticut on the night of his wife's disappearance. It appears the zip ties were used to secure and incapacitate Jennifer Doulos for some time period during which her blood transferred to the ties, the court documents stated in 2020. It is reasonable that Jennifer Doulos was alive at the time the zip ties were attached to restrain her movements and prevent her escape. Foitis Doulos died in a Bronx hospital on January 30th, days after he attempted to self-delete while out of jail on $6 million worth of bail. I wonder, okay, so this is morbid and it just popped into my ADHD head, but so if you're out on bail but you self-delete, is that considered skipping bail? Do the people that put up his bail, do they get that money back? And I know it's morbid and it's a terrible question to ask, but me being a cheapskate, I'd be pissed off if I put up 10% of that bail and this MFer then self-deleted, and I'd be out 6 mil. I mean, again, I'm an ass. I probably shouldn't ask. I am completely divorced from this case. So I'll ask David. And a day before he was scheduled to attend another bail hearing, he proclaimed he was innocent and he had not killed Doulos in a suicide note. Oh, crap. I said the word. Oh, okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Thank you, Restium. That's how I'm saying your name. Oh, yeah, that was mean. He proclaimed that he was innocent. Oh, yes, okay. The petition for the declaration of death was to ensure there was no disruption of the disposition of the Doulos estate. She left all her assets to her children in the will that she signed on April 2017, just 2 months before she filed for divorce. As long as Jennifer's status was undecided, then the children could not inherit from her or from her mother, said Farber's lawyer, Richard Weinstein. I would have changed my name from Weinstein. I'm just saying. According to CT Insider, we were concerned, obviously, with Miss Farber being 88 years of age, needing to wait the 7 years. Farber had been caring for her grandchildren, who are now between 13 and 17, since her daughter's disappearance. I mean, to me, he looks super-de-duper shifty, not to speak ill of the dead, but all the shifties. Doulos' death declaration was announced ahead of the trial for Fotis Doulos' ex-girlfriend, Michelle Troconis. Look, I'm probably mispronouncing that too, who was arrested on the same day as the husband or ex-husband. Troconis faces charges of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with evidence, along with others. She has pled not guilty to all charges, and her trial was scheduled to begin Monday, but jury issues pushed the start date to January 11th, according to Hartford Courant. This might be one that I'm looking at because this looks all of the interesting. Oh, woohoo! I actually did something right. Look, it's a banner. Mark this down in your calendar. I said someone's last name right. It rarely happens. In sad news, and I don't know this particular YouTuber, but I figured as a not professional, but as a hobbyist who uses this as a tax deduction for right now. This is goodbye. YouTuber Brian Barsnick enters hospice for pancreatic cancer. Longtime fans of reptile enthusiast Brian, I'm just going to say Brian, are heartbroken after the YouTuber posted a goodbye video as he enters hospice care. The owner of the Reptarium in Utica, Michigan, posted a 16-minute video titled "This is Goodbye" on Friday after a nearly year-long battle with pancreatic cancer. Okay, I'm going to try to say this. Barskis. No, I just can't. Look, Brian is 54, and he thanked all those who visited his reptile zoo, as well as his over 5 million subscribers, for supporting his work with snakes, geckos, lizards, and other reptiles. I have never heard of him either, but I will be quite honest with you. Reptiles, snakes, lizards, no, they're not my, look, I'm glad people like them, but they're not my jam. Barzik. Okay, we're going with Barzik. Now, why people can't just spell it in a way I can read and or have pronunciation guides for people like me, it would be easy. Quote, "It's been an amazing journey and one that has changed my life. Each one of you has changed my life like you can't believe," he said in a tearful video. "You never die until the last person speaks your life. My hope is that Legacy Aquarium, my legacy throughout everything, is going to last a long time." Barsick said his team will continue to post videos on the channel after his death and hopes fans will continue to show up for content. Quote, "We're going to tell great stories and we're going to inspire people, whether it's me or not. I hope you continue to watch the vlog," Barsick said. "I wish I was going to be there manning the front, but let's keep getting people to love animals and wildlife and have experience and dedicate their lives to animals. If that happens, I'm happy." Barsick has long been working to fulfill his dreams of opening Legacy Aquarium, which will feature an interactive reptile zoo and a 25,000 square foot former thrift store. The building is currently under construction with hopes to open by March, according to the Reptarium's website. Quote, "I hope I'm there to see it open, and I'm greeting you guys. That's the goal, but we're a few months off from that. I think I'll be around to see it, so I'm excited," Barsick said. "I want to keep inspiring you guys to follow your dreams, even in the face of what someone like me is dealing with. You can face your dreams and keep going." The aquarium will also have a shark watching and stingray feeding attraction in the aquarium area, while the land part of the attraction showcases relocated reptiles and intriguing mammals, not manimals. I'm sure those are a thing too. Mammals like a two-toed sloth. Barsick told the Detroit Free Press, part of USA Today's network, in June that he wants Macomb County and the broader area to know that he will always offer a place for visitors to get their hands wet and horizons broadened, regardless of whether I live 1 year or 25 years. Barsick's video was flooded by from Heartbroken Fans. Quote, "I'm sobbing right now. Thank you, Brian, for all you've done for herpetology. Love you, man. You're inspiring to us all," one user wrote. Another user said that Barzik should not apologize, adding, "We love you and appreciate the thousands of hours of amazing reptile footage you brought to the world. Thank you for being such a big part of my childhood." The Reptile Army, a community for reptile lovers, honored Barzik by releasing a hashtag Brian Strong line of merch to spread awareness about pancreatic cancer. So that is just very sad. Good morning, Making Law Simple. Okay, we did have a question for you, Making Law Simple. So if someone is out on bail, say it's $6 million, and then they happen to self-delete. Oh, thank you. Now, does that count as skipping bail? So if the, person that put up that bail money, does that count? Like, do they get that money taken away? Just a random thought. But we wanted to make sure that that money would get back to the Salbert. That's a Rumble question. Thank you. I was nervous about the interview because, it's my first semi-professional thing. But I feel very sad for him. I've heard that pancreatic cancer is one of the most painful cancers that you can have. And I'm glad that he lived out his dream and he's doing something for animals. Like I said, reptile animals are never going to be my friend. Okay, good. I was just making sure because I would be pissed if, like, I put up money, 6 mil for my friend, and then they decided they were going to self-delete, and then that counted as bail jumping, hypothetically. And the state was like, ah, well, there you go. Thank you for answering. MLS says that's a good question. So if someone who is out on bail, who is paid a cash bill or surely unalives themselves, does the lien holder get the money back? I would say yes, because once the person is unalive, the charges against them must be dismissed. You cannot charge a dead person. Typically, when the charges are dismissed, the bond is refunded. Yeah, I know some people really like snakes. They creep me out. I'm sorry, it's the lack of legs. Now, I do like the pictures where people have drawn stick figures of legs and arms on snakes. That can't possibly be normal. But, it and I like axolotls. But no. Uh in Why is this guy always doing douchey things and talking about douchey things? Pete Davidson talks about his douchiness. Look, I want to like this guy because he does a lot for, he has a good story about his dad with 9/11, and he does a lot for, you know, parents or kids with, first responder parents. But then every time he flaps his mouth hole, just this smug douchiness comes out, and I don't understand why people think he's funny. But, humor is subjective, so you are allowed to find whatever funny. Pete Davidson was high on ketamine at Aretha Franklin's funeral. He told his family he would like to pay his RESPECT specs. Yeah, but it's still attached to a douche. Like, I don't care. I mean, in order to figure out that he's got the golden pee-pee, you still have to deal with the talking douche mouth. I mean, that would be Pete Davidson admits in his new Netflix special that he was high as balls when he attended Aretha Franklin's funeral in 2018 alongside his then fiancée, Ariana Grande. Quote, I'm embarrassed I was out and about like that. That's not cool, the stand-up comic says in Turbo Fonzarelli of being under the influence of the drug, which is used to treat depression. It's also used to treat chronic pain. Davison then joked that Franklin will, quote, never know he was high, but added, still, it's not the point. The Saturday Night Live alum claimed that the substance made him put his foot in his mouth in front of the Respect singer's relatives. I was so high that I thought it would be a good idea to go up to her family and go, hey, I'm just here to pay my RESPECTS. Oh, for the love. No, no, that's not funny. That is horrifying. I mean, that's the kind of laugh you would get from me because I'm like, holy shit, of all of the things that I have ever done that are terrible in my life, that is worse. Davison joked that if Franklin were present, she would have likely asked, hey, who are you and what the F are you doing at my funeral? Yes, probably. In fact, I would have probably asked that as his relative. It's embarrassing, the King of Staten Island star 30 added. Davison attended the funeral as Grande's guest since the pop star got engaged to him just weeks before and was asked to perform in the honor of the Queen of Soul, who died at age 76 in August 2018. Grande, now also 30, hit the stage at the service wearing a controversial mini dress to sing You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, which was written by Carole King. So Davison's apparent flub with Franklin's family did not make headlines at the time, but his history with drug use is well known. Yeah, he is high as balls here, and she looks distinctly uncomfortable. He looks, well, I've got many things to say. Yes, he's supposed to make jokes, not be a joke. It's a fine line that very few can manage, apparently. Also, ma'am, you are in a church, a conservative African American church. I should not be able to see the start of your butt cheeks. That's not Dane Cook. That's Pete Davidson. And can we stop loosely using the word comedian? The Bupkis star has been to rehab several times, including 2017 and 2019, and most recently, Page Six exclusively reported in June 2023 that he had gone back after struggling with borderline personality disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. Pete regularly goes to rehab for tune-ups and to take a mental break, so that's what's happening. Okay. Addiction is serious and mental health is serious. What the F does this dude have to do? Like, he's on SNL. He didn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. Like, he oddly gets hot women to date him, or okay, what people think are hot women. So Ariana Grande, look, you might need rehab after you date a Kardashian, so I'll give you that one. But thus far, I mean, you might need rehab after working at SNL because they're not funny. But what, sir, have you been doing with your life that you are so stressed out that you need rehab? Because as far as I can tell, you done nothing. I mean, you have this comedy sketch, but I have not seen your IMDb full of crap that you've done. Sadly true, that in prison. But you can also find Jesus there, so it's like, where's Waldo? It's like Dora the Explorer. It's like, You can find all of the things. You get your backpack, you get your map, you can either find Jesus or, an 8 ball. Another insider told Page Six 2 months later that Davison confirmed he had dabbled in using ketamine in order to treat his depression. Yeah, with a doctor, not just, a unlicensed street pharmacist. There's a difference here, people. There's a difference. The drug, which is also used for anesthetic purposes, recently became a talking point when Matthew Perry's autopsy report revealed that Friends alumni had mixed it with a bunch of other crap and passed away. I did that last night. It was my first story. So there are a multitude of theories. So I can kind of get into that a little bit. So theory number one is that there are a group of sort of radical students that believe that a passed away rabbi was the second coming of Jesus, the Messiah. And something or other, they wanted to get to a holy mikvah that he used to use. That's one reason. Another reason was that there was a land dispute in which this particular Orthodox synagogue was having land dispute with some sort of other uh, Jewish congregation, and and they were trying to expand sort of surreptitiously. There were also allegations because there was a mattress and sort of pulled out there that there might have been grapey allegations. Uh, so there are a lot of different things. Now, what is interesting is that the state basically went in there and cemented right away. Now, that might be for structural reasons, but that also then does raise everyone's conspiracy theory things, because of course you're like, why wouldn't you go in and really investigate it, really look at this stuff? Bec- because we would all like, no one had Hasidic Jewish men climbing up from sewer grates like the Ninja Turtles on their bingo card. But the state decided to just cement everything in without really having a thorough investigation as to what was going on with these tunnels. So, I mean, this has led to a lot of speculation, and obviously un- that hilarious and unfortunate photo of the Hasidic gentleman rising from the sewer grate like the oddest Ninja Turtle in the entire world is imminently memeable. But there was also speculation that these tunnels were made so that the students of the school could walk without, recent protesters accosting them. So now the scuttlebutt about these tunnels being built because of the Kuf and certain religious practices not being able to be held. These tunnels were apparently only being started about a year ago. So that is much later than, everything had been relaxed. So they really don't think that that's anything related, but thus far everything's kind of higgledy-piggledy, so we don't know. In other ridiculous news, Sadistic and cruel. Judge sentences former Air Force special agent to 10 years for abuse of a minor. I'm glad that he got, caught. A former Air Force special agent was sentenced to 10 years in prison Monday after he pleaded guilty to child abuse that happened at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. Joshua Carl Herod, 44, of Spanway, Washington, who later served as a National Guard recruiter, because of course he did, worked for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, because of course he did, when he sexually molested a child left in his care over a 7-month period in his home on the base. Snake Island. I believe we need this. Don't put me in charge of any law writing, because I will simply say one-way ticket to Snake Island. We will pay Brazil, a small fee to send these people there. U.S. District Judge Benjamin Settle said Herod's crimes were sadistic and indescribably cruel, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office, Western District of Washington. Herod pled guilty to enticement of a minor, news release said. Herod, according to the authority, abused the child between October 2017 and April 2018 at his residence. Now, when these things are in federal court, this is the one thing that I really have a big gripe with. I would like federal court proceedings to be videoed. I feel like we have just as much right to see what is going on in federal courts as we do in state courts. I don't understand why we are not allowed to see federal proceedings. This seems like a big breach of the general public's right to know what our government gets up to. And it seems like we would get to the bottom of a lot of this human trafficking stuff as if we had more transparency, because it does seem like a lot of this child exploitation material stuff does seem to go through federal prosecution because they seem to have the resources. So I would like to see, and I don't know how you would do this. I'm sure it would take some legal lawyering and actual legalness, but for the love of all that is Cheetos, I want to see those cases. I think we have a right to see them, but that's just me because I pay taxes. Yes, I would like to see a motivated populace. The minor victim was between the ages of 7 and 8. Oh no, Snake Island covered in dead rats. I don't care. When Herod would coerce the child to engage in grossness. He left the Air Force in 2018 and went on to serve for the National Guard. Herod separated from the Air Force in 2018. Let's just see how much he got, because I'm done with this dude. Okay. Wait a minute. He was charged in July 2021 following a grand jury indictment with 5 counts of abuse of a child under the age of 12, according to a news release at the time. He pled guilty in October 2023. The FBI, the Air Force Office of Special Investigation, Joint Base Lewis McChord Military Police, local police, and the Washington State Patrol all contributed to the investigation. Herod also pled guilty to making a false statement to a government agency for efforts to falsify phone records related to evidence in the case. The December sentencing memo stated Herod forwarded a message to the family law attorney claiming to be from the child's mother, stating, quote, "I don't know why you keep fighting me. I'll have the child say whatever it takes for you to never be able to see the girls again." Ugh. Agents investigating Herod said he falsified the message as well as a phone bill to make it appear that the message came from the child's mother. Herod fabricated it by sending himself the message from his work phone and altering the contact information in his phone to make it appear it came from the victim's mother. In addition to a 10-year sentence, 10 years? Just gross. Settle ordered lifetime supervised release after Herod's prison's term. The consequences of many crimes before me do not have the impact that this one does, Settle said in a news release. Victims of these crimes carry with them a life sentence. Yes. I hope Gen Pop justice. I'm just saying. Allegedly in Minecraft. In November, Military.com reported that the Marine Corps is investigating a gunnery sergeant who wrote a self-published memoir detailing a relationship with a young recruit he was working with in a recruiting office in Texas. The Marine published the story of what he described as a scandalous romantic relationship with a young woman who wanted to join the military in October. Don't write your crimes. For the, let's get to this. Let's read this story for the love of all that is holy. Again, not that I don't want this Joker to be caught because this Joker seems dumb AF, but don't write a Harlequin romance about your crime. Sir, you is dumb as hell. A Marine recruiter's grooming of a teenage recruit led to an investigation. The family says he's still terrorizing him. Just, ew. I will save this for tonight because if I read too much more of this, I'm going to send everyone to Snake Island without a Frosty. Everyone's going to go to Snake Island without a Frosty. So one mom may have had a little bit of a moment, and while I understand her anger, she's really yelling at the wrong people. She needs to be yelling at the politicians. New York students are forced to go remote as city houses nearly 2,000 migrants at their schools. One mom goes off. Does it feel good? Now, I understand this mother's frustration. I really do. E-learning days suck the big one. Look, they just do. They do. Look, keeping kids focused, if you have ADHD boys, if you have, then your internet Wi-Fi gets sucked up. You have to keep one kid quiet for a Zoom time. You have to make sure they're actually doing their homework. It is a pain in the tuchus. But you do look crazy as the only, woman shouting at people just bringing toddlers in. Okay, you do look a bit like a Karen. I'm not saying you are not right to be mad. I am just saying the optics are terrible, ma'am. Try to think of optics. Students at a Brooklyn high school were kicked out of the classroom to make room for nearly 2,000 migrants who were evacuated from a controversial tent shelter due to a monster storm closing in on the Big Apple. The city made the move amid concerns that a massive migrant tent at Floyd Bennett Field would collapse from torrential rains and gusting winds, packing them instead into a second-floor gym at James Madison High School 5 miles away. The school's neighbors were not keen on the last-minute decision. Quote, "This is effed up," said a local resident who identified himself only as Rob. "It's a litmus test. They're using a storm, a legitimate situation, where they're testing this out. Quote, "I guarantee you they'll be here for the entire summer." There's 19,000 people getting thrown into my neighborhood, half a block from where I live, and we don't know who they are, he said. They are not vetted. A lot of them have criminal records and backgrounds we don't even know. Yeah. And also you don't want to be the one woman standing out there. You know they're going to capture your face. You know the weirdos on Reddit, on Reddit are going to, dox you and call your work and say that you're all the ists and phobes. You just know it. Okay? It's just it is going to happen. So, while I understand, one irate mom went off on the migrants as they pulled up in a line of school buses in the pouring rain shortly before 6 p.m. How does it feel? Does it feel good? The woman who only identified herself as Michelle screamed at the buses. How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? Does it feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you're sleeping very well. That's a pretty nice stroller. Look, I have priced out strollers. Uh, Said a local dad, quote, "How do you feel stealing American tax money?" The school announced online earlier that the day that classes would be held remotely on Wednesday due to, quote, "the activation of James Madison High School as a temporary overnight respite center for the migrant." The decision to clear the migrants out of the field came as the city officials feared for the safety of the tent city. There were heavy rains, wind gusting up to 70 miles per hour in the forecast later Tuesday and into Wednesday. Quote, "To be clear, this relocation is a proactive measure being taken out of abundance of caution to ensure the safety and well-being of individuals working and living in the center." City Hall spokesperson Kayla uh, Mayamilik said, "The families are already in the process of being temporarily relocated and will continue to be provided with essential services and support." Well, I'm glad they're going to be provided for. The students that have to, reroute their entire learning. Yeah, and this is the sad thing. This is a small taste of what border states have been dealing with for years. And it is just ridiculous that we can't just say stop. Look, I can see both sides. I can see wanting to be kind and say everyone has a terrible story and I would love to help everyone. But there is a check and balances. There is a cost and benefit, and we are not taking care of our most vulnerable people right at home. I mean, if you look at the homeless community we have, there is a high chance that most of the homeless are going to be men and former veterans. And we need to take care of those people first, in my opinion, before we take care of people that might have sad stories but did not come here legally. Again, take care of our own backyard first, then we can worry about what we can do for other people. But we are turning away homeless veterans, homeless people that have mental illnesses that, may have worked before, people that, are citizens. I'm sorry, our first duty is to our countrymen, and then we can try to help other people, but we are failing to do that right now. It's just it is bothersome, and I hate to make the distinction, but we need to do that first. The relocation will continue until any weather conditions that may arise have stabilized and the facility is once again fit for living. By midday, officials were already prepping the high school for the migrants' arrival from the airfield about 5 miles away, with 10 parked NYPD vehicles and a half dozen emergency management trucks parked outside. Quote, "They told us we had to get everything out by 5 p.m., gym teacher Robin Levy said outside the school. "They sent us an email at 6 in the morning. We didn't know we'd be able to go back when we'll be able to go back. What I want to know is why here, Levy said. Why not send them somewhere where students wouldn't be disrupted, where student learning wouldn't be disrupted? That is a good question. And the answer is there's no more room. The migrant move began shortly before 5 p.m. as more than 24 school buses lined up at the field for a short drive to the school. It wasn't the first time extreme weather has been an issue at the 2,000-bed facility, which took a pounding last month, phrasing, when heavy rain and gusting 55-mile winds shook the metal bolts and hinges loose from the ceiling. The ferocious storm on December 18th dropped up to 4 inches of rain in the region and had migrants inside the tent fearing for their lives. They told the Post at the time, quote, "The wind was so strong it looked like the tents were going to give way and be blown apart," Venezuelan migrant Ribi Rodriguez said. "When we told security we were afraid of imminent collapse, they told us the door was open and we could leave if we want." Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to blame them. True. I mean, if only we could take back that $5 million we spent, supporting Egyptian tourism, or that we spend money on ridiculous things. But where are we going to go? I have an answer for you. I don't think you're going to like it, migrant person. But the other part that people don't realize is we are also leading to incredible amounts of brain drain in native countries. The people that are possibly with the gumption to change and build up the countries, their native countries, into something better, aren't going to put the work in there if they have an easy way forward here. I mean, that's the problem. We are contributing to a lot of problems by providing an easy answer. And there are not easy answers to a lot of these questions. I get that, but this is not the answer. Critics are worried about the remote location, but officials were desperate to find space for thousands of migrants flooding into the Big Apple. "I warned the administration that something like this would happen from day one, and they refused to listen," Councilwoman Joanne Ariola, a Republican from Queens, told the Post Tuesday. "Floyd Bennett Field is entirely unsuitable for a tent complex. This is how we are wasting taxpayer dollars to evacuate nearly 2,000 people when they should have been placed somewhere like Park Slope Armory. This did not take a fortune teller to predict." Does she know Miss Cleo? It's common sense. Nearly 70,000 migrants remain in the city's care from among the 162,000 that have arrived in the 5 boroughs from the U.S. border since the spring of 2022. The city has also erected migrant tents at Randall's Island in Manhattan and the former Creedmoor Psychiatric Center in Queens, but said Tuesday that those sites are less exposed and not considered vulnerable to the extreme weather. Adams also said that while the tents at the other 2 sites are anchored to the ground, the ones at Floyd Bennett Field are only held down by heavy stones. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing she's... Well, I mean, you read it. It's Areola. He is a little bitchy sounding. Like, look, sir, I am allowed to be snarky, but you, sir, are a little too male and you're a little too smugly sometimes. My mom doesn't like him either. She's like, "He's just a little too smug." And I was like, I know he is. I kind of like it. Look, And I got a new mug. It says, "I am 110% tired," which actually I am not exactly, but I found a new mug. Anyhoozle, that is the news. I am working on some more pop culture stuff. I am working on getting the opening statements for the Groves going. There is no nightly newsy news. Tonight is Dave's night for the law newsy news. So he has got you guys covered with all the legal shenanigans that are going on. I will probably be popping on with EU and Salbert and whomever to go over with the oh gosh, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I always want to say Gypsy Rose Lee. Look, I love that musical. I don't know why. I know it doesn't have Ethel Merman in it, but look, anyone that can take Natalie Wood and try to make her look all dowdy is ridiculous. But every time I hear Gypsy Rose, I'm always like, I always start going on at the refrain for that song. And okay, anywho, I always think about people stripping, let's be honest. And considering some of the outfits that Miss Gypsy Rose has been wearing here lately. Oh, well, I will still be on for Gypsy Rose night because I made it. You know, she's my comment about the Gypsy Rose case is that I do get a little irritated that Gypsy Rose was allowed to use her childhood abuse, which was plentiful, but her boyfriend was not allowed to use his myriad childhood issues and mental issues as mitigating factors as much. And sort of the press the prostituting she's doing. I don't know how I feel about it. You know, good for her that she's making her rounds, good on her. I really don't want to know about her and her husband boning. I mean, yay for you. I don't really want to know though. But I mean, congrats for you, but and also just a little hint, sweetie, if you're going to wear a really short skirt and you do know that the podcast does the up angle, don't wear a really short skirt on a couch interview. Just yipes. Anyhoozle, those are my thoughts. But then again, I wear wigs and I'm showing more cleavage today, so I have no room to talk. I live in a glass house. I throw no stones, so it is what it is. I can't throw any stones. So there you go. Gypsy Rose, you go sell yourself. Go talk to all the podcasts. It is what it is. Have a lovely day. I will see you later. I am going to work on some videos. And be nice to yourself. Be nice to others. Stay nice and safe and warm. Fry, what are... Every day. Every day it is a why is Fry. Just why is Fry? In this rug, he has managed to embed I don't know in this rug. I am going to see if I can put it in the washing machine as Amazon promised that you are able to put it in the wash machine. So hopefully I can put it in my wash machine and wash it because he has put unspeakable holiness on this rug and it's my favorite color. So hopefully we can fix it. I will see you guys later. Have a great day. Bye guys.